So first of all, I would like to say what good. It's not good. Yeah, should be good evening, right? To Ada, and so we work together, focus on three different methods on English language teaching, and this assignment is the complement for the course of ELT Methodology and Innovation. So we focus on three different methods on Suggestopedia, community language learning, and total physical response. So we divide it into two. I responsible for sharing information on Suggestopedia and also community language teaching. And Ada will focus on TPR, or we can say total physical response. Okay, so let's see our content. Just like we already mentioned, so the source that we get the information to support these three types of methods from we get from Richard and also okay another book, another coursebook in our course. So move to Suggestopedia. If you see the word suggest, we know clearly that this method is, relies on suggestion. And we can say that the name of Suggestopedia come from suggestion and pedagogy, right? And most of the information that developed for the Suggestopedia from a guy we can call Lozano. So Lozano create a method on Suggestopedia, or we can say another word, it relies on recommendation. And Suggestopedia, if we focus on the characteristic of Suggestopedia, we can say that most of psychologists suggest that learner or teacher can learn well according to the decoration of classroom environment, furniture, classroom arrangement, or music, right? Or a authoritative behavior of the teacher. So this characteristic involved in Suggestopedia. And moreover, we also, get suggestion from Steve Wick. They suggest to, implement uh, a better training on the teacher to have, enough competence on teaching, dialogue and uh, in a special way by focus on voice quality, intonation, and timing. So this criteria we used to add up to Suggestopedia. And also focus on consciousness and concentration, rhythmic breathing also involved in Suggestopedia. And also we get more recommendation on the recording whole meaning text. And we also focus on emotional content to implement Suggestopedia in teaching and learning. Okay, another we can see the background information of Suggestopedia. So, Gaston in 1963, as in 68, provides three functions of music in therapy, to facilitate personal relation and also increase self-esteem and self-satisfaction. Okay, so learner can learn well, not only themselves, but we as a teacher, we have to have them in these three functions uh, by implement teaching music. Also, another psychologist, Bancroft, 1968, he focused on learning environment. And we know that learning environment is important to have learner learn well in, uh, in second language. And not only that, we have to facilitate memory and facilitate recall to check the understanding, to check whether they remember the input or not. You can see in figure 10.1 here, in video put attention and memory study. And you can see that when learner in the unconscious process, maybe it is not learnable, but we have to alert them to, engage them, involve them to learning. Okay, and then they come to consciousness. Okay, if we talk about approach in Suggestopedia, we can say something regarding to theories of language, something regarding to theory of learning. If if we focus on the theory of language, most theories um, focus on memorization, on vocabulary, and also target language, or we can say inputs. And we also have students learn how to translate from, the second language to L1. And mostly Suggestopedia is not recommend to, use contextualization. We don't have to you contextualize the meaning from the context, from the text. If we focus on theory of in learning, mostly psychologists or educators suggest uh, focus on suggestion, which is a hard, the core point to Suggestopedia. And normally, not only suggestion, something that not suggest also include in Suggestopedia, because we concerned that something can, embed in uh, affective filters that distract students from learning. So we have to consider those points as well. And suggestion mostly we focus on memory and have we try to have students remember the target areas and make sure that they feel well, they feel desire to learn the language. Okay. And authority also involved in Suggestopedia. Teacher put much, facilitation on the process in learning. So we can say teachers as authority in facilitating, in teaching and learning process. And another point we can see in infantilization, um, from the point of view from Banskov 1972, suggests that authority, on student and teachers relation, and also from, the relation from parents to children as well. And if you see the balls in planners, we see the effect of direct instruction and environment. So it direct instruction, we can say we learn in a class and environment. It is indirect instruction, for example, classroom environment may be involved in instruction as well, but it is indirect. Okay, another point to intonation, rhythm, and concert uh, um, syndrome passiveness. Okay, if we see intonation, it is how we use our sound to attract the in communication process, rhythm also. And if we talk about the concert here, it is another term that we use in Suggestopedia. So we can use, we can distinguish from tone and rhythm, in presented material to avoid bad feeling to student, okay, and avoid bad repetition or wrong repetition, okay. Just like we use music to play in the learning process, and we also try to reuse, relaxed attitude, uh, and the role of music in Suggestopedia. Okay, so music play important role in Suggestopedia. So concert here we refer to, body relax. When in learning process in Suggestopedia, when the body relax and we know that the mind, the mental process is working. Okay. So in presentation of material connected with the heartbeat, it is the example of uh, heartbeat and the learning process. We try to examine the slow beat of the heart can be connected to the feeling. And it can be connected to the feeling and can maybe might take great leap forward, for example. It is also a good point of view that we have to think about. And another one is the environment of the dialogue. The encouragement of the dialogue as well. Okay, focus on design. We have objective and syllabus and more also, but the objective of Suggestopedia, we design it to focus on, conversation of uh, proficiency. And we not only focus on vocab and also increase memory power. And as I already mentioned, that we do not put much attention on memorization, but creative solution of the problem is more focused. So the syllabus we have to in the example the course with last 30 days with 10 units and 4 hours a day with 4 hours a day and 6 days a week example. It is the syllabus that we have to design for Suggestopedia and also focus on the dialogue within 1,200 words in the dialogue. Okay, so teacher can also use vocabulary list, word list, or grammar for teaching. Okay, or printed dialogue for translation for student to practice. Okay, and we can see the type of learning and teaching activities. We can use imitation, Q&A, yeah, question and answer, role play, for example. In this, not, but this activity maybe not activity for just Suggestopedia. Mostly we recommend listening activities, just like text and vocab, intonation, sound coordination, okay, new tech discussion, or relax and then listen to the teacher, okay, or ask student to breathe deeply and then listen to what teacher said, okay. It can be unconscious learning sometimes. Okay, another thing we have to focus on what the role of teacher and student do. For student, they need to volunteer to the activity and they have to have good or strong commitment. And some activity maybe previously smoking, drinking are prohibited until now. We have to maintain the concert activity. Okay, for them to relax some time and ask them to practice. And we need to focus on tolerate and encouragement to student themselves. Okay, so teacher put they need to get strong, monitor from teacher. And if we focus on teacher's role, teacher's role, we teacher need to show absolute confidence or manners and stress or strict at beginning to get them familiar on instruction and then follow the flow of teaching. And teacher make sure that they have to maintain a positive attitude and also give test to student on respond to the full paper and also maintain the enthusiasm of the student, both student and teacher. Okay, so role in functional material, instructional material. So material need to be both direct support and indirect support. Okay, so text play most important role in emotional force or literacy quality and interesting characters. So language problem should be used to avoid wording. So teacher need to select the language or literature quality. So environment is the indirect support material. Another one, procedure. So procedure, we need to focus on first micro study. So micro study is grammar, vocab, Q&A example. And then macro study, we focus on role play in innovative or other innovative language instruction. And then can be discussion, translation, or question, or comment, or other special efforts or anxiety, creative production. So we need to put in the procedure of Suggestopedia. And number two, so CLL, or we can say community. So I put it wrong here. Actually, community language teaching. So we know that in community language teaching perspective, we only recommend learner to practice in community. So learner are working well when they work in the group of people in their group of community. So this theory developed by Charles A. Curran, or we can say Curran. So previously we call another word for CLL is counseling learning theory because teachers play important role. We can say teacher as counselor. Okay, or another approach to the same to CLL, or we can also say humanistic approach. Okay, so mostly in this approach, bilingual procedure is the important role in learning, and we can say that language alteration or code switching sometimes we can see in this approach. According to Roth, 1951, empathetic understanding is very important. Okay, and if we talk about the approach to theory of language, Lafok is a person who, developed it. Uh, so in 1982, he reviewed on linguistic theory on that as the prelude to presenting CLL model of language. But we can say that the language of theory must start, not end. It is according to his perception, because we focus on sound system, meaning, basic grammar instructions. And he also suggests that CLL should be learned in the social process, in the community, which means we follow the social process model. So social process model is different from information transmitting model. Okay, so another type of theory of language in the we can see we divide social process model into six quality or sub processes. Can be the whole person process, and then educational process, interpersonal process, the developmental process, communicative process, and the last one is cultural process. So we can see the connection from each process, and we also learn, well by understanding cultural uh, dimensions. Okay, um, as we know that currents in 1972, he said that CLL is contrasted with, quantitative, quantitative learning U, which is intellectual and factual process alone. So learner is not learn alone, cannot learn alone. So they need to learn in community. Or sometimes behavioral process or behavioral use is not important in CLL. Okay, and teachers is the center to 5 stages as mentioned earlier. Okay, and if we focus on design, the objective of designing CLL is to improve community competence. Um, so by focusing on social interaction and explicit language learning. And we also aim to use, in an introductory conversational course. And also we use it to transfer knowledge and proficiency to student in the target language. Okay, so three objectives here for designing CLL. And also, if you focus on syllabus in order to develop the syllabus for CLL, we have to focus on overall proficiency. And according to Toronto 1968, modification is used in teaching writing. So not only communicative language teaching, but also writing, maybe writing at the end of the process of learning, we can practice it. And no conventional language syllabus. So conventional language syllabus, we refer to the syllabus that we focus much on grammar and vocab. So we don't have to put much focus on grammar and vocab. We just focus on practicing and in the community of language learning. So CLL syllabus emerged from interaction between learners express communicative intention and teachers reformulation. Okay, and teachers sometimes also isolate in detail grammar and vocab. You know that in designing syllabus, we don't focus on vocab and grammar, but teacher also practice it or teach it in another detailed isolation in case it is important to know. Okay, in designing, again, we focus on type of learning and teaching activities. So we actively can be focused on translation, group work, recording, uh, transcription, analyze, here, analysis, reflection, observation, listening, and then free conversation. So this activities is designed for CLL, community language learning. Okay, what is the teacher, or student and teacher's role, learner's role in CLL? So learner is the member of the community, and the learner cannot learn alone. They have to learn from collaboration in their work in a group, and learner also need to listen to the knower. Okay, who know the information, and they have to listen to the knower. Even in the group, they have to listen to the group leader, for example. And in that, the knower can work as the counselor to help the slow learner as well in their group. Okay, so the role, and another role can be special group arrangement. So we have to put, the knower and the low student to work together to help each other. And uh, so learner also need to implement or maintain the five stages as mentioned earlier, and also solve effective crisis as a whole, whole person. And if we focus on teachers' role, teachers also work as counselor, and they have to maintain emotional language to difficulties or handle the difficulties of the student. And they also need to mention the personal learning conflict, for example, maybe anger, anxiety, or other sensitivities that can affect students' feelings. So teacher need to observe those affective filters. And also teacher need to mention the five stages as mentioned earlier, and need to provide a safe environment and secure the feeling of the student. Sometimes when during discussion, student can show defensive position, and teacher can facilitate the process. Okay, another one, if we talk about the role of instructional material, so material can involve with the interaction of community. So community play important role in this type of learning, and textbook is not really considered as much important in the process of learning and teaching. And teacher need to develop material that match to the student's level. And conversation can be described or transcribed. If it transcribed, can be written dialogue, or described can be speaking, can be spoken. Okay, and scribe of the dialogue and mini dialogue have to provide to the student as material. Okay, if we talk about procedure of the CLL, so first we have to introduce, personally or as the informal greeting, and then teacher need to explain the guideline or the goal of the course. After that, uh, we have to implement the conversational sections to the student after making conversation in the group or in pair, and teacher ask students to reflect what they have learned and express their feeling. And then they can record or highlight the key important grammar or vocab. They can they can use that highlight to to ask question from teacher or from their classmate. And then after knowing the highlight important information, copy on the board, and teacher can ask them to copy from the board and note the meaning and the usage of the target target inputs. Okay, so that's all for my point. Let's move to um, Ada on a little bit procedure on CLL, and then TPR or total physical response. Okay, so please, Ada, the stage is yours.
All right, thank you, Sulpan, for the explanations and also the time. Could you please move to the next slide because you already explained the procedure?
Okay, the next slide, right? Okay,
Yes.
TPR.
All right, thank you. So for the next topic, I'm going to explain about TPR, or probably some of you guys already familiar with this term, but I would like to give a little bit descriptions related to this method. So what is TPR? So it is actually a short of total physical response, as you can see on the slide, and then it's an approach or method developed by James Asher. The aim of this teaching method is to build around the coordination of speech and action and also attempt to teach language through physical, motor, or activities. The first one I'm going to talk about the approach. The first is second language teaching and learning should reflect the naturalistic processes of first language learning. In here, there are three processes as central mentioned by James Asher. First, children develop listening competence before they develop the ability to speak. And the second one is the ability in listening comprehension is acquired because of the children to respond physical to spoken language. And then the last one is once a foundation in listening comprehension has been established, speech evolves naturally and effortlessly out of it. Like when a human learned their first language, the environment is really natural, right? So they don't feel like they are learning the language, but instead they absorb all of the grammatical rules and also the vocabulary naturally. So that is one of the aim of this method. And then if we move to the design, there are objective and also syllables. For the objective, the ultimate aim is to teach basic speaking skills, and the goals must be attainable through the use of action-based drills. And then if we have to make the course related to this method, the aim should be able to make the learners capable to uninhibited communication that is intelligible to a native speakers. Meanwhile, the syllables in here, the use of a sentence-based syllables with grammatical and also lexical criteria being primary in selecting teaching and items. TPR basically focus more on the meaning rather than the form of the items. That's why we can say that the grammar is taught inductively, and then the grammatical and also the vocabulary items are selected not according to the frequency, but the need of using the target language in certain situations. Okay, and then this one is based on Larson's book that I've read. There are several principles that we have to consider in using this method. The first is the goal. If we go back to the approach, I have mentioned that we have to consider the absence of stress. So that's why one of the goal of using this method is to reduce stress of people who learn L2. The teacher who use this kind of method, they are aware that the absence of stress is really important so the student could be more enjoyable in learning the language itself. And then um, Asher believes that the base for language learning is upon the way children learn their native language. It means that it should be stress-free and also really natural. The next one is the role of teacher and students. There are several roles of teacher and also students in the classroom. The first one, the teacher as the director. In here, the teacher plays a really important role. The teacher itself plays an active and also direct roles where the teacher can give comments to the students so the students could imitate all of the comments later. The teacher will be the one who decide what to teach, and then the teacher will be the one who models the comments and also present the new materials and also responsible in selecting materials suitable for the student itself in the classroom. And after that, the teacher could have interaction with the whole community in the classroom or have like the teacher students interaction individually. And after that, um, usually the teacher speaking and also, the teacher would deliver the materials and also the student will respond it non-verbally. For the, oh wait, let's go back, Sofan. For the learner's role, in here the student role is as an imitator. So in total physical response, the student is responsible as the listener and also the performer of the teacher's comment. And sometimes the role could be reversed if the students are already comfortable with the materials and also the instruction given by the teacher. So later the student could give the comment and give the comment and imitate it to the other students. All right, next. The next one, there are some characteristics of teaching learning process. The first one is the first phase is modeling. In here, the teacher would have to issue comments to a few students and then demonstrate it to the students, like performing the action. And then in the second phase, the students will demonstrate it in front of the teacher. And the next one, the teacher needs to recombine elements of the commands to have students develop flexibility in understanding unfamiliar utterances. In here, we can say that in the second phase, the same students who got the comment by the teacher needs to demonstrate what they understand by performing the comments alone. And then after learning to respond some of the oral comments, the student learn to read and write them. And when the students are ready to speak, they can they can be the one who issues all of the comments to the rest of the students. And then the next one, what are the language are emphasized and what language skill are emphasized? In here, vocabulary and also the grammar structure are emphasized over the language areas, and then the spoken language is emphasized over the written language. All right, next. Okay, in here we're going to talk about the role of students' native language. The first role is to introduce the students' native language. In the beginning of the TPR or the introduction of TPR itself in the classroom, usually the teacher will use the native language to introduce the material. However, after time have passed and also the introduction have been done by the teacher, the native language would be rarely used in the classroom, and then it means that the meaning later by the English language would make clear through the body movement. And then the next one is the how is evaluation accomplished? Okay, so if you want to evaluate sorry, what the student have accomplished, we can observe the student's action, whether they understand the what is it whether they understand what the teacher's instruction or not, because the teacher basically will know immediately whether or not the students understand by observing the student's action. Like formal evaluation can be conducted by commanding individual students to perform a series of action, and then if the students become more advanced, their performance of skits they have created can become the basis of the evaluation. So we can see whether they are understand the material or not, or the lesson or not, by seeing their series of action in the classroom. So that's how we evaluate them. And then the next one is teacher respond to the student's error, because as I mentioned before, this is a stress-free language learning environment should be applied in the classroom. Once the teacher makes some error, because they don't understand or probably because they're nervous, the teacher should be tolerant of the mistakes made by the students. If they make like a major mistakes, then we are responsible in correcting them. However, if it's like only small error, just let them be so they feel more comfortable in producing the language in the classroom. So yeah, that's it from me. Thank you so much for. Oh, sorry. There's technique used in TPR. Sorry.
Okay.
Okay. All right. There are three techniques mentioned by Larson in
Okay.
the book. The first one is using comment to direct behavior. So the
Mm.
comments are given to get students to perform the action, and then we can direct their behavior in the classroom using the comments. And then the role of reversal. So as I mentioned before, again, the students would be the one who comment the teacher, and also the classmate who perform some actions. Not only the teacher who can give the comment to make the student give some actions in the classroom. And also the last one is action sequence. In action sequence, we are responsible in giving series of comment and ask students to perform. So it would be easier for the student itself to absorb the material and also understand the language learning process. For example, we can say, um, point to the door, walk to the door, and touch the door. So giving them the
Mm.
sequence of action would make them easier in absorbing the maybe the grammar and probably the vocabulary in the classroom. Okay, so that's why. That's it. I mean, the presentation from me and also Lisa Fan. If all of you friends
Thank
have
you so
some,
much, Eddie.
yes.
Thank you
Okay.
so much.
But
And
oh yeah,
yeah.
sorry, you are the moderator. Okay.
Okay. So let me uh, finish the recording.